Good morning, everybody, and welcome to my channel. My name is Maria, and I am Little MissDiagnosed. And usually on this channel, I talk about misdiagnosis and health and the effect it has on people's health, not having the right information. And in the last little while, I have had a unique experience. Well, not unique to a single, but unique amongst most people. Most people will never have the opportunity to go viral on YouTube. Of course, lots of people do, but I mean, out of 8 billion people. Well, it's even more unique to be the parent of somebody who goes viral. And my wonderful child, Len, um, who is a teenager, has gone viral as Rocket. And check out their channel. I'll link it below when I put this back up as a edited video. But dear gosh, it's R0KK3TT. The parenting. There's no manual for how to parent a kid that's gone viral. And to do so without sort of an 8 passengers type horror show, right? That it's being abused or used, and without a way to say all the good things. And I talk a lot on my channel about how we don't have the language of parenting. We don't have the language of connection and attachment. And I am a linguistic, psychological person. In my counseling, in my parenting, I believe that language affects the way we think. If we don't have words for it, we can't figure out who we are. We use words too much. We categorize and make it oversimplified or stick people in boxes. But in general, words help us make concepts into things that we can affect in other people. So here I am going, what do I do with this newfound information? Where do I go from here? And at the moment, the thing that seems to be affecting people most is, thanks to a wonderful Pride Month that passed, I got to do a lot of the Pride events in the area. And one of the things that I do for that is give out free mom hugs. I am part volunteer with the organization Free Mom Hugs Canada, and its sub chapter, Free Hugs, Free Mom Hugs, Southern Ontario. We are near Toronto, and that is where a good third of the Canadian population lives. It's also a huge center for pride parades, very luckily. And it was really nice this year to see that the communities were as active and loud at bringing in energy and time and goofiness and parties to the pride events, even with sponsors pulling out and uncertainty from the American communities, news cycles, that sort of thing. Pride Toronto was still a giant, phenomenal, loud creation. And it was wonderful to be involved there. And we actually managed to make our way to Genshin Impact, the pop-up store, right on the strip, right on Yonge Street. And we managed to make it to an anime store, which has featured on Rocket's channel. And we they are really, really careful. I'm really glad that he's super careful with information as a teenager. And we talk about that a bit, and we talk about how to present your information online, and being extra super careful about what's a friend. Can I be friendly with you? Absolutely. Am I going to become one of your friends? No. This is a parasocial relationship. It's different to be online and someone knows a bit about you and some version of you that isn't the thing that's going on behind the scenes. And that's, again, where language matters. But where it matters most is at the base. My volunteering with Free Mom Hugs Canada has meant that I have hugged hundreds of people, often wearing a mask, which is as I should do. It's a good thing. But hundreds of people who woke up this morning assuming that they didn't deserve a hug and who cried in my arms because there wasn't a parent or an adult or a guardian figure that was willing to hug them. And to me, that is I have no words for how horrible it is to not have your adults believe in you. Unconditional love and support is my metaphor. It is my mindset in the good sense of the word, a real value-based thing and not some sort of surface level BS. A mindset is truly the values and activities you take through your entire life. And to me, positive and supportive parenting and adulting is at my very core. I was given that. So I am lucky enough to be the horribly spoiled child of a wonderful parent who still at this age gives me unconditional love as a child, as an adult child, but as their child. And so I figured that the thing we're missing most is a chance to have these things said. I can't give a hug on a live stream, but I can. To me, the magic and miracle of the world is that psychology works across video. The fact that our brains can watch this artifice of a recording, some sort of many, many photographs stuck together and holding sound somehow, and we can hear it and be affected by it. And so I've decided to come back on and do some streaming in the morning and show the positive language that I use, that my family has used, that makes a difference, that affects the world. And here it will be for the very few people who find it, but hopefully the long game. People can come and hear that they are welcome as they are. So let's get into a little bit of good stuff right after the intro. You probably got to hear my drink there. Well done, Maria. Let's come on back and say hello this morning. You are enough. You are enough because you woke up this morning. There are 8 billion people alive today. There have probably been another, what do they suggest? 10, 20, whatever million people. And there's a theory in history that all of those people have exactly as rich a life as you do inside. And that every single person who walks by on the street out there has exactly the same richness and fullness in their life as well. And it horrifies me that a good portion of people wake up in the morning and don't believe that they're enough. And there's a lot of entertainment on YouTube, there's a lot of knowledge on YouTube. There's a lot of support on all these channels and socials. Why do we need these socials? Well, because the world has gotten both bigger in the number of people we're connected to and smaller in the people who are in our homes, who live with us, who hug us, who deal with us. And it has made us more disjointed and more disconnected, especially as standard North American culture. We are supposed to exist within one house with only an immediate family, and there may or may not be anybody else around us. We raise kids like this, we raise them separately, and we do not grow with all the people around us. We have people who join us as guests in our homes, but again, a lot of especially uh, formal North American culture, like the sort of idea that we should be guests and have parties and dinner parties and stuff and not hang out with each other, holding hands, crying, dealing, and having a village surround us. And when one of our family members is annoying, there's 40 other people. I grew up in a culture where I wasn't a farmer anymore, but I knew and grew up in the metaphor of my family being previously farmers, of being people who grew up in Manitoba where having somebody if somebody was at your house, you gave them food when they arrived. And the idea that people didn't know that they were simply allowed to exist. We have usually the best people in the world, the calmest and sweetest and kindest people in the world are the ones who don't believe they're enough. We've had a culture of running the best people into the ground, and the worst people get to just fob off, as it were. That's how they get rid of the discomfort of their lives. They just download it onto other people. And this doesn't just have the bad things that happen with, you know, in the people who are doing it. It downloads that onto what are usually good people. And since it has no outlet, when we have an emotion that has nowhere to go, it just sinks down into our feet and tells us that we're not good enough. We believe if that bad thing happened to us, that it's because of us. And it is amazing to me how often in the good people that I know, that their standards for themselves are that they be nearly perfect, that they aren't good enough unless they're perfect. You've probably heard that in sort of people will go, give them a compliment and say, I see that you try to do good every day. I see that you try to be ethical and help other people and you bog down and you just do your work and you take care of your kids or you take care of your family. And they go, well, I'm not perfect. Who said the standard was perfect? Did mean people tell you you needed to be perfect? Think about it for a second. We have a culture where mean girls, as it were, whether they're real or just figurative, have told us that we have to be perfect. But by definition, the fact that they're mean to us makes them not perfect. So perfect is artifice, perfect is looking good, or perfect is being good. And who said it was perfect anyways? Idealization in family life, in psychology, and feeling good about who you are is the enemy of good. Perfect is the enemy of good. You're enough just as you are. Would you tell your pet that they weren't perfect today for being grumpy? Or would you go, well, it doesn't really matter. They're just them. They're just a cat. They're just allowed to be a dog hanging out with me. Okay. Why did you wake up any differently? Why does being human demand that you feel bad about yourself and not that you go, wow, I'm a mammal too. I'm literally just an animal that woke up today. I woke up and therefore I am miraculous. I understand that there is a world out there and I can touch it and see it and remember it and tell people about it. And I can connect with it and learn more about it and read about it. And isn't that just incredible? Isn't that enough? Isn't it enough to just exist today? The human species that you would be recognizable and call it just Homo sapiens before it would have changed, like if you could go back in time and communicate and those fun science brain thoughts. If you went back 100,000 years, you would be recognizable and be able to deal with if you were sat at a campfire 100,000 years ago, you wouldn't know the difference really. It would look about like the same people to you. Just, if you'd met somebody out in the outback or while camping, you wouldn't know. 100,000 years. You wouldn't know their language, but that would be the same as if I went to, I don't know, Greece or something. I wouldn't know the language there. If I went to Iran, I wouldn't know the language there. If I sat around a campfire, it would look different, wouldn't it? Well, 100,000 years ago, even if we just do like a really ugly back of envelope, if we just said 50 years, people lived longer and shorter than that. But, let's just say people lived about 50 years, just so we have a round number, and divide 100,000 years by 50. Now, generations don't work like that. You don't have a baby on the first day, but you know what? It doesn't matter. We're just trying to get what 100,000 divided by some lifetime looks like. 2,000 generations. The human species has been around for at least a couple thousand generations. 100,000 years ago, did people measure their merit by the job they held, by the car they had, by the phone they had? Oh, wait, those things are literally 100 years old. 100. They are 1 or 2 lifetimes. The world has changed utterly. 100,000 years encompasses all of human history. The Stone Age, the Bronze Age, the Copper Age, the Iron Age, the so-called Mesolithic, the New Age, the Neolithic, the now, the Meso, the middle, and the Neo, the new. And the Neolithic just meant like they had metal and stuff. Pottery and a cup, a mug has looked about the same for 1,000 generations. And here we are in 100 years changing everything about us. Well, it was bad back then too. Absolutely. The world has always been this bad. North Americans just didn't think it affected us. There have been dictators, there have been wars. It's just never been at the shores of the people's memories. And there is nothing that stops the US from having a dictator any more than Serbia being bombed outright and completely meant that those people were living in the 17th century. They all had cell phones when they became war refugees, and so will you. The world's never been this bad. The world has always been this bad, sorry. But here's the wonderful thing. The world has never, not once in 100,000 years, been this good. Yeah, the world is going to crap around you. There is actually a recession and probably a depression that no one's going to talk about because marketing. But it's also never been as good. It has never been a place where a simple farmer from the Ukraine 100 years ago, my family came here, closer to 150 now, but they came from different sides. But one of the core families came and started a new life here, was given land that wasn't theirs, but was a persecuted people. So I am both persecutor and persecutee. And I have all this privilege of standing in the North American viewpoint because of what my ancestors did 5 generations, 4 generations, 100, 200 years ago. And here I am getting to be a rich lady sitting in a beautiful place with cameras and electronics, and royalty of yore could not have experienced anything like the future we live in. I remember watching Star Trek when I was a kid. The Next Generation was the thing that was on TV, and they had pads that they could get information from, and it was ridiculous. And I go, that's literally an iPad. It's literally an iPad. Go back and look at it. Go look at their things. I'm like, it came out less than halfway through my adult life. You know what I mean? I'm not even particularly old. It didn't come out when I was like, 70 or 80. It came out in my middle years. And I go, wow, we are literally living in the future. And I love it here, for one, because I can literally communicate with any single person anywhere in the world. And I can tell them that, yes, it has always been this bad a world, but it has never been this good. I have never been able to change who I was. If I was a Ukraine serf 200 years ago, I couldn't have gotten out of it. They had to run because there was no way to change your station. You were a serf if you were a serf. Well, now I'm a professor. I'm someone sitting here at a fancy desk getting to enjoy all my electronics. And there are periods that are rough, and nothing has been as rough as this last year, actually, in my life. I have lost a lot of friends. I have had a lot of grief, and I still deal with that. I've also had a lot of pain. Life is not all good, but man, what would my life have looked like 100 years ago, 200 years ago, without medical care, or without vaccinations, or without support, or without people, or without someone on the internet to tell me good things, where I couldn't research, I couldn't read, I couldn't go and say, I can find a web page, a channel, a meme that tells me that I am enough, because I am. That could tell me that it's okay to be queer, that it's okay to be neurodiverse. That language has entered the system in the last, I don't know, 5, 10 years. It's all started to change. And I love it. I, for one, welcome our insect overlords, as the meme goes. I don't think it's said often enough. The thing that I was telling people when I hugged them during Pride: you are enough because you woke up this morning. You woke up as a mammal, as a human, as a person who has a full and rich interior every day. Thoughts, emotions, sensations. You know that. And yet, the thing that presents most in great, wonderful, kind people is anxiety. Anxiety that you're not enough, anxiety that you're not doing what you're supposed to. And that runaround in our heads was put there by the system we're living in. And it is a long game, but the way to take down the system is first with words. It's first to tell each other that we are enough as we are, that my kid, who has become internet famous in a small way as a teenager, living in near Toronto in Canada, we're just some family in the burbs, as it were. They have become this force of good and famous enough that a lot of people watch their videos. Mine, I'm still running the same couple hundred subscribers, and I have no problem with that because the number of subscribers you have does not say anything about who you are, really. It just says how many people wanna watch what you say, and that's cool. And sometimes what they wanna watch is crap. There's as many bad people out there with lots and lots of good numbers, right? So, does it really have anything to do with your worth on the inside? No, not really at all. Who you are is who you are. And it is wonderful that we have this system to connect, but it is not what's important about you this morning. And so I actually thought I'm going to put together the people who are my subscribers and the kids who are hanging out this summer. It might be summer break for a lot of people who are North American kids. And I thought I'd come on and say, hey, I'm not your mom. Just like Rocket, like Len isn't, he's not your friend personally, but we are a mom and a friend on the internet. And so let's say hi and let's say the positive things out there. And even if I just leave a small record of how we got here, how we got to being positive and healthy, and how the messages that I and Rocket say got here. And if that just leaves a small thread for kids who grow up and know that they're okay the way they are, and that they're loved and supported and they deserve a hug. And if it means that other parents find it, or other chronic illness people who understand and get supported, it doesn't matter to me who it is. I know the systems and the algorithms want you to, do things in a certain way, but I'm going to do what's right. I'm going to do what's good for people. And I see that StarX Saul has shown up and said hi. And that's awesome. Hello. Hi to Rocket Mom. And you know what? I thought it was so funny. I'm like, this happens to all moms, regardless of what happens in the world. We all get told, hi, I'm Jane's mom or whatever at things and places. And I'm like, that's happening here too. And I am totally cool with it because I'm okay. The best thing I ever did was have my 4 kids. Len has 3 other siblings older than he is, and they're all the way into young adulthood. And it's the bestest thing I've ever done in my life. My whole life was always been about intentional parenting. It's been about making sure messages went out to kids in good ways. And I know that a lot of kids don't get that from their parents or from their adults. And that's a great loss. So I'm out here to say hi as a mom, not your mom, parasocial relationship. You don't know me, I don't know you, but hey, while we're chatting, I can give somebody a hug. I can say hello to people. And I am happy to welcome Rockets fans as some longer form live content here because I'm the streamer. They're not. They don't. They do it once in a while, but they're sitting here going, "Oh my God, do I have to do a 10,000 stream?" I just did a 1,000 stream. That's how fast that went. And I went, you can do anything you want. The first thing I told them was that they don't have to do anything for other people just because they've become a moot, a person out there. They don't have to do anything they don't want to do, which actually comes to the next question from Starix, who says, can you bring Rocket here? I'd love to. I would happily. But first rule, person gets consent, don't they? The kid gets to decide what they wanna do. And if you're a kid of mine, and you should, as a kid in the world, get consent from all adults. That is the goal. I know it's not gonna happen for everybody because, frankly, there are crappy adults out there. There's people who are actually mean, there's people who just don't know what they're doing, there's people who have swallowed, the normal, quote, unquote, "average parenting," and average parenting in our culture is really, really crummy because it was kind of co-opted by all of these groups that wanted to have kids obey and do what they're told, and that's exactly what doesn't work. That controls people, but it doesn't grow them. So, I'll ask, I'll chat, we'll find out if they wanna do a stream, if they wanna hang out, if they but right now, what I'm gonna do is tell you the things that I told him his whole life. We in my family, my side of the family, I had an intentional parent. I had a mom, and I still do. My mom is in her 80s. And she still treats me well and considerately as the baby I am to her. Yeah, as an adult with consent and boundaries and communication. But there's a difference between being treated as another adult or as a best friend codependently. Most of our intimate relationships, as in, our families, our direct people in our lives, our step families, the people we really work with, they've become really codependent. They've become and what's codependency? It's the idea that you have to feel the same way or agree with the other person. That's what it is simply. No one defines it. There's this big thing about it being bad, right? What's the definition? The definition is really simple. It is when your parent is angry, do you have to be angry too? Or do you have to shut down completely and not be angry? Both of those things is codependency. If you're not just allowed to be the way you are. I use the example of what if a pet passed away on you and you're sad. Does everybody have to be sad? What if someone hated that pet? Are you allowed to hate the pet? What if your sibling's pet died and you hated it? You thought it was mean to you all the time. You thought it was stinky and mean. Do you have to feel the same way? Or are you allowed to have your emotions? Now, are you allowed to not be a jerk about it? Or do you get to stomp around and say, I don't care? No. But can you be empathetic and say, I understand you're sad about your pet. I see that you're sad. I'm not sad. Was that allowed? Or did you have to be whatever your family, your parents, whoever said you had to be? That's the core. That's the root of interdependence without codependence. Are you interdependent? Can you rely on the people in your life? Will they be there for you no matter what? Will they show up, keep working? Do your parents go first? Yeah. The line of vulnerability, the arrow of vulnerability means the smallest and the youngest and the most vulnerable always goes first. That is the simple definition of the difference between good and evil. What's a good choice? Why do people do things that look good but they feel bad? Well, who are they for? Are they to give to the smallest, youngest, and most vulnerable, or are they to turn the arrow around and send something back up to the older, the more established, the richer? Well, capitalism and patriarchy, big words that people think are some sort of big rebellion. No, they're also simple words. They're just words that mean the people who were in charge are still in charge. Yeah, because they are. And that they make more money because they've got more money to invest. Yeah, that's true. So, are those things supportive of the youngest, the smallest, and the most vulnerable? No. No. So they're by definition not good. Can they be not evil? Yeah, there's a big gray line there, isn't there? The truth isn't one end or the other. That's a false dichotomy. The fallacy of false dichotomy says that it's one or the other. And I'm like, no, it's the big gray smear in the middle. That's kind of a line, everything is kind of somewhere there's the truth and it's kind of even gray in there. But if you woke up this morning and said, I'm trying to do the good things, I'm trying to do the right thing, I'm trying to do things for people, then you're a good person and you're enough. If you mess it up because you don't know how, that's okay. But the second step is that you have to be fault tolerant. And we have families that are not fault tolerant. You're not allowed to make a mistake, are you? You're not allowed to say, I don't know. You're not allowed to say, I'm confused. You're not allowed to say, oops, I screwed up. If there's no safety for making mistakes in your world, then how will you learn anything? No person can be perfect the first time. Everybody makes mistakes. And if they're not safe to make, how the heck will we learn anything? You are enough. Even when you make mistakes, you're enough because you're trying to do a good thing, and you're enough because you try to do something different when you learn that you made a mistake. And that means that you will have memories of doing things wrong. And people go, therefore, I'm not the perfect one. Yeah, but you're good. You know what really, really mean people don't have? They don't have memories of doing mistakes because they ignore them. They push them out of their heads. They push it on the other person and they say, "You're the one that did it. I don't know why it was me." And they get rid of that in their head. If you worry about being a good person, you're probably a good person. If you worry about being a good kid, then you're probably a good kid. If you worry about being a good parent, then you're probably a good parent. And you deserve to be you today. You deserve to be whoever you woke up and whatever you thought. And you deserve to do it without massive anxieties, without massive irritation, without being told that you're not special and you're not enough. So I like to, on my streams, I haven't done them in a while because of illness and really, really rough grief in our lives. But I do like to, when someone is younger, I'm not terribly big or special, but I am enough today, and I like to say hello to people and go, "Hey, if StarX has got a great channel, go and hang out with them." I like to put up their links and things like that. Shout outs to those who are smaller and younger. When it comes to kids and teens on my streams and things, I welcome them. I don't need to know your age. I don't want to be responsible for that. You can say that I'm a teen or a kid, and that's enough, kind of thing. Always be safe on the internet first. Don't say where you are exactly. Don't say who you are exactly. People don't need to know unless you've already vetted them as safe, kind of thing. And the problem is everybody else is watching, right? Somebody stumbles on it. So private communication for private information so that people know. And that's why we have Len is one of the nicknames that I've always used for Rocket, and it is a real name. It's not their full legal name, but who cares about full legal names? Who cares if you change your name because you hate it? Who cares if you change your name because your parents call you by your middle name? Yeah. Who cares if you change your name because you get married or not? Who cares if you change your name because you're trans? Who cares if you change your name? It's just a name. And I understand the grief and weirdness of being the parent who has to say, "Hey, it's changing." I have 3 trans children, and it's wonderful because I get to learn who they are, and if we don't make it into a huge, horrible thing, their names, their nicknames. I don't see nicknames and renaming yourself as much different as avatars. Like, I'm used to being called things because of, like my handle, Little Misdiagnosis. Like, is that my name? No, but it's part of me. Is Maria E my real legal name? No, but it's part of me. It is something I'm really called during the day. It's these are all like we're not confused when someone changes their name when they get married, right? They were Jane Smith and they become Jane Jones. Why is it so hard to remember that someone calls themselves Jed now instead, right? Let's uh let's just call people what they want to be called. At the same time, I think it's because parents don't have a place to figure out how to be sad. We don't do grief in our culture, do we? We don't let it in. It's you're not supposed to cry. No one should ever see you cry. I hate that. I absolutely hate it. I think people should get to be sad. And the fact that we don't get to be sad together. Um, that's the first rule. The first rule of me as a parent is that you can always have your emotions. And that literally is how we stop codependency. Your emotions today can be different than other people's. They can be different than mine. They can be different than Rocket's can be different than mine. You can be different than your parents or your adults, your guardians, whoever you live with. You can be your character. You can identify with an animal. You can feel like you truly are transitively, like a trans experience with being an animal therian. Or I think you can just feel like you want to express being one sometimes, and it's dress up or play, and what does it matter? What does it matter what that imagination is? I remember playing dress up till I was about 18 years old, and people were like, "Oh my God, you're so weird. You didn't grow out of it when you were 10 or 12 or whatever." And I go, "Well, I became a speaker. I became an actor. I became a cosplay costume maker. My mother made costumes for Halloween, and then I, started to make Shakespearean outfits and things, and then now I have a kid that can create beautiful garments and outfits and, drip, for gosh sakes. And that is because it was okay to do all of those things in the world. Because you were allowed to have your own emotions, you're allowed to learn from your family. So so many of us either feel alone or we feel like we're surrounded by people who don't understand us. And that brokenness is not something, if you're younger, and by younger, I mean anything under 40 or so, but especially if you're under 20, I want you to know that eh, this was here before you. You didn't screw it up. It was screwed up by, frankly, people my age and older. Gen X, people who are now the 50-year-olds, the middle-aged and older people that you sort of have as your teachers and as your people around you. It's the boomer thing. Okay, boomer from a while back. That was cool a long time ago. But it's true. It's absolutely true. It is the boomer's fault. It is a brokenness that came historically, and I've talked in my regular edited videos about how that comes to be, but let's just say the very short answer is that it came out of, I believe, the PTSD type reactions of the war, the First and Second World War, where the majority of men in cultures of Europe and North America were subjected to horror, and everything shut down. The world shut down. They came back, and there were less kids There was a boom, yes, but then there were less kids after that because those kids didn't wanna have more because it was so horrible. All of their parents were addicts or abusers or traumatized, and the answer was just never talk about it. We broke the family system at that point, and we're living out an experiment of 100 years of change. So the things that are happening now weren't put into play by you and people older than you in the last 5 or 10 years. They've been in play for, well, even me. I remember 20 years of realizing that parenting was being affected by horrible, uh, religious sects, and you go, "Well, we're just, sort of not religious around where we are in family groups." And I go, "Yeah, then why were babies being taught to obey or to blanket train or cry it out? Where did this come from?" Yeah, it came from all of this right-wing religious stuff in the US that's now being daylighted because of the dictatorship down there. And yeah, I'll speak plainly. It's a dictatorship. That's the definition. And I hope that I'm safe enough as a Canadian to say that on the internet and not, there would be other brown women in the US who couldn't say that because they would probably disappear. We're at that point. And I try to keep these safer streams sort of PG, but doesn't mean I don't talk about big topics. I try to, reduce my trigger warnings. I try not to yell or to go, but I still that's the truth. The truth is that if you're scared of war, you're not wrong. Even if you're a little kid. If you're old enough to realize that the adults are putting this into motion. But remember, war has always existed. But pride, it's brand new. And it has a voice. Accessibility and accommodation and understanding are brand new. And they can connect people for real. They can connect the people who think differently and speak differently. So that today, you as a kid or a young adult or as a parent have somebody to tell you that you are enough today. You're a good person. You are trying your best. You should not have to feel what other people feel because you are required to, but because you empathetically understand. So go out there, be the good person you are. You do not have to be perfect. You do not have to be anything like what culture tells you. Cultural experiment of suburban America is 50 years old, 100 years old. It's just made up. It's just made up. You could go look up village. Go Google what a village looks like around the world. What would the culture look like if you lived in a country in Africa? What would village look like if you lived in a country in Southeast Asia? What would it look like 100 years ago, 200 years ago? It's a blink of an eye in historical times. 100,000 years ago, humans would look just like you and could communicate and think and be just as intelligent as you. 2,000 generations. They didn't have to have grass, mow their lawns. They didn't have to have HOAs, homeowners associations, to tell them how to paint. They didn't have the so-called Barbaras and Karens, both of which are very nice people, so maybe we should stop doing that, but we need a replacement because it's a good idea. The people who say you have to fit in the system or else you don't fit. Horse wallies. If you don't fit in the system, then you're doing a dang fine job today. And I, as a mom, am gonna tell you, I'm not your mom, but I am a mom on the internet. And so I'm here to tell you today that you are enough. If you're doing it weird, you're doing a good job, and that you are allowed to have your own emotions. You're allowed to feel and think the way you want. And if a different adult tells you differently, then they're the one that's struggling, not you. Don't let an adult download into your mind the fact that you're good enough as you are. And if you're trying to be a good person today, then you probably are. And if you're worried about being a good person today, then I expect that you are. So I'll say goodbye for today, and I will see you as many mornings as I can at approximately 8 o'clock. I'll put up a streaming uh, schedule so that people can see me a little more regularly. My name is Maria, and I am Little MissDiagnosed. And I guess I'm also Little Mom, whoever. Have yourself a great day with uh, some love and some gentle hugs from me. Take care of yourselves.